Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening again. That's nice. Or if this is your first time, I hope that you come back, and I hope that you're part of the conversation at some point. Really, I want people to give me feedback and ask questions or really anything, and I will be reading the comments, and I would love to have people send me questions or maybe even do something live. So on this New Year's night, you might hear some fireworks in the background. I'm sitting outside on the back porch drinking some Cabernet from a Texas winery, Llano, and it is bourbon barrel aged. So, yum. For me, this is the best of both worlds. A little bourbon aged barrels. I love the oaky taste in wines. I love like peppery, spicy tastes too. Smoky, tobacco, all that. Love it. So this is a really good one that I'm enjoying right now. And got a fire going and just enjoying the cold tonight. So ever since I can remember, I knew in my bones, in the marrow of my bones, that memories keep us company when we are older. Yeah, I was not the average 8-year-old or 14-year-old or 22-year-old. Yes, I thought about my toys and going to the community pool at Peak Park, what candies I was going to eat that day, or what boys I had a crush on when I got older, what to wear to school that day, and later what my next weekend getaway was going to be, or what my next life goal was. But I also used to walk around or drive around or lay down in the grass and just look up at the clouds and contemplate life. And I would think about how important memories are. Our memories are what will keep us company when we lose touch with our friends, or when life stages make it impossible to see or hear the people we care about, or injury or illness, when we become more isolated as we get older, or if something happens in our life. Sometimes we don't have a lot of people around, and memories are going to be there to keep you company and maybe entertain you, keep you happy, keep your spirits up, or maybe just keep you going, keep your brain working. And when we are alone, we'll always have our memories. Always. Nobody can take that away from us. They can get jumbled up sometimes, but at least we got them. Remember the people who make an impact in your life. Remember their stories and the stories that you make with them. Be thankful that you are players in each other's lives. Remember their words, especially the expensive ones. The words that are used sparingly and that have a potentially great cost to give them away. Those are the really special ones. Some memories will keep you warm and cozy. Others will make you laugh and maybe even guffaw. Those are great. Those are my favorite, actually. They'll give you energy without any effort at all. And if you laugh enough, sometimes you'll feel like you had a workout without even going to the gym. Even the sad memories have value. Those are the ones that help you remember that you can feel and that you have depth. When I remember those, I'm so grateful. There is that saying that it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. And that's kind of how I feel about life in general. So when I think back, I don't have a whole lot of regrets, because I find something useful or good or redeeming or uplifting or inspirational or something in every situation. Even COVID, I found some like hidden gems in that. I'm gonna write about that someday, because that was crazy. That was crazy for all of us. So remember, even the sad memories have value. They remind us that we are human and that we have feelings and we have depth. Just remember. So this book started because I enjoy memoirs so much. I love reading about other people. finding out what makes someone tick, what made them who they are, what kind of mystery exists in their past. Like, did you know that Hedy Lamarr, the great actress from the 30s, was actually an inventor? She was a mathematical genius and an inventor. She actually invented the technology that Wi-Fi is based off of. And they used it in World War II to talk on the radios. That's how we were able to talk, and the Germans didn't find out, or the Japanese didn't find out things that we didn't want them to know. But that's how Wi-Fi came up. Her biography is so interesting, and it's got some tragic parts in it. It was very sad. She was never recognized for her intelligence, but she does hold patents. So that's pretty amazing. And I just finished Anthony Hopkins' Memoir, and it was fascinating and amazing, and that he identified with Hannibal Lecter more than any character he's ever played. That was kind of crazy, but when you hear it in the context of the whole memoir, it just completely fits. Like, it was just destined for him. So I always think about what kind of mysteries exist in their past, and I just love memoirs. People are endlessly fascinating to me. We all have so many layers and so much that we keep to ourselves, or there's just so much depth and complexity to life that it just makes us that much more complex too. So if, like, I could sit and talk with anybody probably and find something interesting and compelling to learn about or talk about with them. So this episode is dedicated to the listeners, to all of the listeners, all kinds, therapists, friends, family, clients, my clients. This actually all started because of my clients. Children listen, strangers, just, random people, lovers that listen during pillow talk, if you're really hearing and not just talking, and the blank pages that get filled up with our silent words, especially those. Sometimes those are the costliest of all, and we keep them locked away. It takes a lot to be a good listener. Don't interrupt, keep focused, stay engaged, participate. So thank you for listening, and I hope you'll participate too. I'd love to have some conversations with people that knew me when I was young, or knew my family, maybe even people that I haven't met, but you're friends of my mother or my aunt or my brother, or you went to school with me but didn't really know me very well, but you want to ask me something. Like, anything. I'm open to anything. And I would like to do some of it live too, but feel free to put things in the comments. I'm in the process of contacting some people from my past to see if they'd like to give their 2 cents. I would love it. The stories would be good, and I'm sure the laughs would be plenty. Sometimes you just have to laugh, and I love it. So here's one for you. This is my first memory, and I thought I had audio from my mother of this, but it was a different conversation at a different time. And I can't remember if I recorded it or if we were just talking on the phone. But I'm gonna try and get her version, and I'll play it again later because it's crazy. Her version was nutso. So I'm gonna explain it the way I remember, but I'll find her version. I gotta find it. I've gotta have it somewhere. But I was talking to her on the phone, and I told her about this project, and I had thought about having her on and really making the whole book with her. I don't know if that will happen, but maybe at some point she'll come on and answer questions directly. I don't know, because I don't talk to her. I don't have any contact with her. And you'll find out why later. I can't talk about that one yet. So we were on the phone, and I was telling her that I thought it would be so interesting to talk about growing up with a drug dealer mother, and how she was like, I felt loved at times and safe and all of that, and then other times I just knew that it was a batshit crazy life. Like, it was just weird. I didn't know how to handle some things. And so I asked her about this memory. I said, I just remember lights, Mom. I remember it was dark, and I remember lights flashing and just a lot of light in the midnight sky. I remember that. And I was wearing a coat, and I remember it was my favorite coat when I was little. And it had to be cold because it was this dark blue, kind of like a navy blue crushed velvet, and it had white fur cuffs around the sleeves, and it had fur around the bottom and fur around the hood, and it had the little balls. I can't even think of what they're called now, but when you tie your hood and you want to make it tight, it had those little pom-poms that were hanging from the neck. They were white furry ones. And she said, oh my gosh, you remember that? I said, yeah, I remember that. That's all I remember, was that I was wearing that coat. It was cold, and I just remembered seeing lights everywhere, and like twinkly lights and like the night sky. And she was flabbergasted. She had no idea that I would remember that. She said I had to be about 2, maybe younger than 2. And they were living in Hollywood. My mom and my dad moved to Hollywood when I was little because he wanted to be a rock star, and my mom was a groupie, I guess. I don't know, but they moved to Hollywood to be rock stars. So this was, she said that my dad wasn't there, so I don't know if they had separated already. Maybe I was 2 years old. I'm gonna say I was 2. And she was there with a group of friends, and they were watching the Hollywood Christmas parade in the street. Well, my mom is really short. She's probably about 4'10" now, and she might have been about 5 feet tall. And she said that it was so crowded, she didn't want me to get trampled or suffocated in the crowd. So she asked her friend to put me on his shoulders. And I was on his shoulders walking around, so maybe that's part of what I saw. But this is the funny part to me. I was telling her that I thought it would be so interesting if I say my memory and then she tells the full context at her age. So she would have been about 19 at this point, with a bunch of friends in Hollywood and a baby. Why would you do this with a baby? So she said they decided they wanted to get better seats, and they wanted to see the parade better, just a better view all around. So they all went up to a building and went on the roof. And these are all apartment buildings in Hollywood. They're kind of close together and like old buildings. So she said that probably what I remember about the sky and all that is that they were hopping from rooftop to rooftop to get down the parade and find out where they wanted to sit. So she said that her friend, this guy, he would jump to the next roof, and then she would hand me off to him, like throw me across the roof to the other side. And I was like, what? Mom, you were throwing me? And she was like, you were fine. It was safe. He caught you every time. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, man, it's a miracle I survived. That's funny. That is funny. But that's the thought process of a 19-year-old in the early 70s. I'm sure they were partying it up. And so tonight I'm in a much different place. I'm sitting by the fire tonight and on my back porch. It's definitely a brand new phase of life, and I'm ringing in the new year with much anticipation of a really good year next year. I think it's going to be hard. I think it's going to be tough because I just finished 6 years of school, went back for my master's in psychology, and I just finished that on December 7th. So now I will be able to utilize that and do something different. So I always take stock of the next year and try to just set myself up for the following year. And I can say that this is the first year that I'm really starting from a place of peace. And it comes from therapy. You know, therapy really helped me to heal. And everybody could use therapy. We all have something to be in therapy about, every single one of us, without exception. And I hope that the stigma of therapy just gets less and less and less, and it becomes more and more affordable and approachable. Cutting off contact with my mother healed, and accomplishing my goal. I mean, I had been in school for 6 years, and that was a lot, with working full-time and being self-employed and stuff too. It's just a lot. And finishing that, not having the conflict with my mother in my life has been amazing, and it just makes my future seem so different and so hopeful. And earlier this year, I found family that I never knew existed in the most random, miraculous way. It was crazy. I'll tell that story later too. And it was just an Airbnb in the middle of nowhere in the desert in Arizona, and I find family. It was crazy. So when I was in therapy, my therapist asked me a question once. She asked, when was the last time I felt peaceful, and like, when was the last time did I remember feeling no chaos or torment or anything like that, where I wasn't anxious or scared, or, you know, those bad parts of my life hadn't really been in the forefront of my mind yet. And I instantly thought of a picture of myself when I was really happy. And I remember I was around 4. So I had to be either 4 or 5. And right after I said that, she told me that she wanted me to write a letter to my 4-year-old self. And she said, I want you to think back as the woman you are now, and picture that little girl, and tell her what you want her to know. Just tell her what you want her to know. And I've heard of people doing this before, or, you know, therapists asking for people to do this. And I always thought it was just a bunch of hooey. I always thought, what does that do? What does it really do? It's not a, magic potion to make your life better all of a sudden. But I did it, and I was thinking she'd ask me in my next session to read it to her. And I was very honest, because you never want to cheat on yourself in therapy, because that's just throwing money out the window. So I was very honest, and I thought we would be discussing it. But the next session that I went in, she didn't ask me about it. And the exercise itself was very healing. And so I'm going to read it right now, and we'll see how it goes. Dear Michelle, I love how happy and smiley you are. Don't ever lose that. Don't ever lose the ability to enjoy your own company, dive deeply into books, lay around on the grass and contemplate the ants moving the blades or the clouds floating across the sky. Don't underestimate your ability to make friends. I am so sorry that you're going to go through some really hard stuff. I'm so sorry that you're not going to be able to just be a kid and enjoy a nurturing, caring, and loving home. I'm so sorry that you're not going to be settled and nesting until you are in your 50s. I'm sorry your father will be absent until you're 18. He will reach out to you, but your mother's family won't let you know, and he will give up until your 18th birthday. Your mother is going to raise you like 2 different people. You'll think she doesn't care, but she does, and you'll think she cares, but she doesn't. She will treat you negligibly, and she won't nurture or encourage your education. I am so sorry for all of what you will endure, and how it will hurt your big little heart, and how it will make you think you don't matter, or that you're not lovable. I'm here to tell you now that you will have some amazing, beautiful, wonderful, exciting, and fulfilling experiences, friendships, and romances along the way. You won't be able to have children, but the good news is that you won't have to go through cancer, and God will give you a different gift, different than motherhood, but still so, so, so fulfilling. You will be able to genuinely care for others who are in need of love, nurturing, and care. You will care for the dying, and that is a very high honor. You will be brave and do incredible things. You will be able to give yourself the life that you've dreamt of, and you will find new things along the way that you love to do and experience. These will be marvelous. You will be an artist from the tips of your toes to the tips of your hair. You have so much to give, and God will be right there with you the whole way. He will protect you. You are one of God's children. You are His creation, and you are perfectly unique, exactly as He meant you to be. Have faith in Him and have faith in yourself. When you feel like you've lost that, remember, nobody can take what God has given you. Remember to have faith and shine in His name. You will flourish, and your life will not be wasted. You matter. You will be loved. You are loved. I've only shared that with my brother and another therapist friend. She's a psychologist and a professor. But part of the healing was saying it out loud. I had no idea it would help the way it did. I thought it was just hooey. I'm going to share it, and I hope that there was some therapeutic benefit for you. The therapeutic benefit for me was honesty and the fact that I was being forthcoming. This is not easy for me to do. When I read this out loud for the first time, it had a huge impact on me. I cried really hard. I don't think I've ever acknowledged this girl with empathy. I've thought of that little girl with pity and shame. You know, shame is such a destructive emotion. Brene Brown says that guilt is useful. Like, if you make a mistake and you learn from it, you can feel guilty because it was a mistake, but you can change it. And guilt, you can just let it go. Shame is different. Shame is something that you internalize, you take it in, and it says, you didn't make a mistake, you are a mistake. And that is just so destructive. It's so important to just let that shit go. And I have. It's not easy, but I finally have, for the most part. I mean, it creeps up now and then, but I see myself changing. And it's interesting to see the changes in me that I thought certain aspects or traits of my personality were my personality that I was born with. But I've changed certain things about myself, and they are not innate. It was products of my environment. And it's really exciting and freeing to see those positive changes, and just changes where I would knee-jerk react and put someone else's needs above my own before, and even in destructive ways to my detriment. And when you get your value as a child from being good or doing things for other people, then as adults we can end up being like overcompensating so that we get that acceptance and love and nurturing from people that we think matter, when sometimes those people are using us and they really don't matter in the grand scheme of things. So that was a big lesson to learn, and I'm glad I finally learned it, and I'm not as codependent anymore. I'm almost the opposite, though. Not quite, but I have caught myself isolating more. The fire needed a little bit of work. So writing that, reading it out loud, sharing it with someone else, especially my brother, because nobody could relate to it like my brother can. I shared it with him, and my friend Becky. That's it for a long time. He received it very well, and I'm thankful for that. I hope we can have a better and closer relationship someday. Until then, I'll respect his boundaries. He had it tough too, and in ways that I didn't, and I had it in ways he didn't. My mother manipulated our relationship for a very, very long time, and that damage has already been done. It's far-reaching and has infected every aspect of my relationship with him. So if we don't get closer, at least he has a better understanding, and that's really all I needed, just understanding and acknowledgement. I can now move on alone if that's his choice. It's crazy how comfortable isolation can become. I'm going to pull myself out of it, though. Not to the point where I don't want to just be alone. I don't, but I am enjoying my peace, and I'm feeling it for the very first time. So I'm being kind of selfish with my time right now. But I will come out of it once again. It feels like the 7-year cycle is true. Someone told me once that life goes in 7-year cycles, and you will always change in these 7-year cycles. And I started thinking about it, 0 to 7, 8 to 14, 15 to 21. These are huge changes in life. We are like completely different people after 7 years. And it keeps going, 21 to 28, 28 to 35. I'm now 56, so this is my 8th cycle. And I see it if you look back on it. Like the beginning of those years are usually kind of hard, and you're learning something. You're kind of starting from the bottom and climbing up, and you're accelerating. So at the beginning of the cycle, things are improving in your life. And even if they're hard, they're improving in your life. Things are getting better and different. And then in the middle, you kind of plateau, and you have this good wave that you ride for a little while. And then it starts to go on a decline again. So maybe you have some hardship in life, or, something happens that's difficult or negative, and your life starts to feel like it's going down for a little while, a couple years usually. And then you're at the next 7-year cycle, and you're climbing out of it again. It's crazy. Look back at your life and maybe put it in the comments and tell me, share some stories about if you notice that in your life or not. But mine, totally, completely. When I was 41, I sold everything I owned that didn't fit in my car, and I drove to Houston to make a new life out here. So year 42 was the end of that, and when things started to get better. And that's part of the 7-year cycle. And 41 and 40 were my worst years of my life. I was diagnosed with could be fatal illness. I had 3 surgeries in a year, got married and divorced, found out I could never have children. All this happened in those last 2 to 3 years in that 7-year cycle. So look back and tell me what you think. It's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. And that's a whole other episode, because I would love to hear other people's stories about the changes over 7 years in your life. So sometimes I felt like I was caught in a cycle, though. Like, I don't know what part of the 7-year cycle that was, but when you just feel like you can't climb out, and you don't know why the same things keep happening over and over. And I was definitely there. I've made the same mistakes more than once, a couple of times in my life. And I think that's when I started to feel old. When you've repeated some mistakes that you thought you would never repeat, then I think back and I go, oh my gosh, man, I'm old. I've been living for a long time, and I've made that mistake once or twice before. Like, man, geez, Michelle, are you ever going to learn? Yes. And I used to feel envious of my mom because she had a 12-step program, at least, that she could go into. But there's no 12-step program for a normie. That's what I've been called for the last almost 40 years, that normies, we don't have a place. We don't have a community. We don't have sponsors. You know, there's nobody out there telling us how to live life. And when you're raised by an addict or an alcoholic or both, or a drug dealer, you end up with issues because of the environment that you were in. Or, you know, because that person was also my mother. So there was definitely, you know, there were definitely things that were lacking. And finding out how to work around all those obstacles or personality, things that I thought were personality traits that were not. Finding out the difference of those and what I could change from what I can't change was essential. That's been key. So I say go to therapy. Don't fall for the illusion. Resilience means so much more than righteousness or perfection. We don't have to be perfect. We just need to be resilient. We need to be able to get up and pick ourselves up after we fall down, get back on that horse, you know? So this is a poem that I wrote back in probably 2017, and I was in a writing group, and not everybody were poets, but there were quite a few. And I actually got a nice little recognition award for this poem from my poet peers. So I hope you like it. It's called Illusion. I don't know if I can take myself there this time. I'm trapped in my own head. My voice is gone. My dream is a mystery. And my feet are made of lead. I can't seem to muster the strength. Maybe I need to let go. Let my dream carry me for a change. Nobody can hear me. I can't reach out. Can't find the way out of this glass cage. I want to scream. I ache from my core. Silent grief. No sound, but the tears pour. Stained eyes and pristine skin. I hide it well. Pity is not welcome here. I won't let it in. A glass prison doesn't make sense. I put myself here, locked in, my mind the keeper of the key. I can break free. I'm no longer paralyzed. Out of bravery comes the shatter. Shards of glass flying. My horns make the clatter. My dream in pieces, no matter. I am free. I can clean my eyes with friendship, find my movement from within. Pick up the fragments, let the cries of the rebirth begin. Creation of new life again. My strength is meant to be, my dreams belong to me. My soul's vision is endless, spirit's energy boundless. Fire in me is stoked. He is the blacksmith. Bellowed and bellowed, the shards turn colors, those regal colors of violet, red, and gold. My life changed when I finally listened to my gut. That is where he lives in me, where I hear his voice, not mine anymore. When I go as silent as the night sky, that is when I finally hear him. That is when everything changed. It all led me to here. Can't believe I'm actually doing this sometimes, putting it all out there. But thank you for being here, and thank you for being a listener. Feel free to participate. I would like to listen too. Tell me what the poem or the letter or anything that I've said how it's landed for you. I'd love to hear it. See you in the new year.